Right. Hello, everyone. As you're entering in, good morning, afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. We'll allow a couple more minutes just for everyone to get settled, and I'll go ahead and start out with some brief introductions before we get kicked off here. My name is Emily Walters. I'm a recruiting specialist in the graduate admissions department, and I work specifically with PhD students. We have many members of our community on the webinar today to welcome you and answer your questions. Let me be the first to congratulate you on your admissions to Northeastern University. I know we have a mix of master's, PhD students here, so welcome. And again, congratulations. We will get started in just a minute and kick off our presentation for our Civil and Environmental Engineering department. But first, we'll go ahead and do a round of introductions. I'll first go ahead and pass it to my colleague, Marissa.
Hi, everyone. Like Emily said, we just want to congratulate you on your acceptance to Northeastern. I work in admissions with Emily. I'm one of the assistant directors, and I work primarily with MS students. So if you have any questions throughout this presentation or the Q&A, please feel free to let me know. And I will pass the mic to Andy.
Yeah, hi everyone. So yeah, congratulations. I'm really eager to talk with you this morning. I really like these informal webinars because get to know you a bit better and get to hear more about your interest and questions. So I'm Andy Myers. I'm a professor of civil and environmental engineering since 2011. And for the past 5 years, I've been overseeing our graduate programs, the master's and PhD program. I'll give you a few introductory remarks on our program, keep it real quick, and then I'm really looking forward to a discussion between all of us. And I'll pass to Kirsten next.
Hi, thank you, Andy. Hi, everyone. My name's Kirsten Vilas. I am the senior academic advisor for the civil and environmental engineering master's students. So if you're masters, you most likely deal with me. I am also joined with our assistant director of advising, Laura Eberly, who's unable to make it today. But we as a team work with you guys and help you through the entire process. I'll pass it on to Melanie.
Hi, yeah, my name is Melanie Marino. I'm a current PhD student in civil environmental engineering here at Northeastern. And I am here to answer any questions that you may have about the program, about campus life. And so I'm looking forward to a discussion.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. So we'll get started. I will pass it over to Professor Andy Myers to go ahead and show a couple of brief slides, go over some of the basics. Then we'll hear from you. We have some questions that have been pre-submitted that we'll start off with, but just note that the Q&A feature is available. Many of your questions will probably get answered as we go along, but please feel free to pop anything in there in the chat. Myself, Marissa, Kirsten, and Melanie will be in there to assist with your questions. So with that, I will go ahead and pass it over. Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, you're welcome, Emily. Like I said before, the intent of this morning's webinar is informal, so I won't be speaking for very long. We want to have a kind of conversation with you and hear what's on your mind. So this is a picture of our Boston campus, one of a dozen or so campuses across the country and the world that Northeastern now maintains. The Civil and Environmental Engineering department is right in the center of campus. So our office is like basically behind the second T in department. We're in a great location in the city of Boston. There's a bike path that gives access to museums and restaurants. There's commuter rail and 2 subway lines. I actually grew up in Boston. I did my undergraduate and graduate studies in different parts of the United States and was thrilled to move back here in 2011 when I started up at Northeastern, because I think that Boston is a terrific place to study, to live, to work. There's an abundance of professional opportunities in all sorts of professional industries, and especially within civil and environmental engineering. So next slide, please. So Welcome to our department. We are very student focused here. Our department has been growing dramatically over the 14 years that I've been here. We've tripled in size, we've tripled in research expenditures, and our graduate program has also grown dramatically over that period. So we are very dynamic, very interdisciplinary, always thinking about what is next in terms of education and research in civil and environmental engineering. We see a huge opportunity to solve critical societal issues with the skill set that graduate education in civil environmental engineering brings. And you are a key part of that success. So we focus very much on students when we're thinking about our changes to our curriculum. You can see we're constantly adding new courses and new programs and responding to the problems that we're facing and that civil and environmental engineers can help solve. Next slide, please. Marissa, I think this might be the full slide set. There's a shorter one.
Sorry, I apologize for that. Hold on one second.
Yeah, no worries.
I think, yes, I think this is the, my bad. I apologize.
No problem at all. It starts off the same, so I just realized that it's the full one.
Yeah, because I was thinking, oh, your picture is on here. So hold on one second. Apologies to those of you who are on the call today. I think this is the one. Yes, this will be the one. Ah, gotcha.
That's the one. Yep. So we can just pick up on 2, please.
Right.
Yeah, there we go. All right. So yeah, I'm Andy Myers. I already introduced myself. A little bit about my research, though, is I'm a structural engineer by training. I was trained in earthquake engineering, but my research program is focused entirely on the structures that are a part of the wind energy industry, both onshore and offshore. So I am a part of the very first center of excellence, academic center of excellence, focused on offshore wind energy. We were part of a team of 7 universities that were awarded that last year. And so I'm really thrilled to see the coordination and the kind of educational initiatives in this area, which is something I've been working in for over a decade. Next slide, please. So a bit about our university. We are an R1 thriving research university with experiential education integrated throughout the undergraduate and graduate experience that is reflected in our ranking as the top co-op program in the country. We organize the university into 9 different colleges and schools, and we are obviously in the College of Engineering, our department. We now have over 40,000 students, roughly 50% undergrad and 50% grad. We offer a bachelor's, master's, and all the way up to the PhD. Our external research awards exceed 200 million, and this is a picture here of our Boston campus, but like I mentioned already, we have more than a dozen other locations within our global network across the country and world. Next slide, please. So within the college, so that previous slide was for the university, but within the College of Engineering, we have exceeded $90 million in external awards. And like I mentioned in the department, the college as well has been on a dramatic trajectory of growth. So this is an 80% increase over the period between 2016 and 2022. We have 18 multidisciplinary research centers and institutes with funding by 8 federal agencies, and civil and environmental engineering is in the heart of many of that activity, much of that activity. And we have research thrusts in terms of health, security, and sustainability. And these are thrusts that the university has defined and that our department in particular is focused directly on. We focus on use-inspired research, so this is kind of very application focused. We have a spirit of interdisciplinarity in our department, and I think one way that that's reflected is we have, I believe now it's up to 10 joint faculty hires. So these are faculty that have joint appointments in our department in college and in another department in college. And so that's a reflection of how critically important we think interdisciplinary teaching and research is to solving these complex problems that are in front of us. The department that we have the most joint appointments with is the Marine and Environmental Science department. We also just created a joint master's degree with that department. Perhaps some of you have applied to that. That's our Climate Science and Engineering degree. And that department is located on one of our regional campuses just outside Boston in a city called Nahant. Next slide, please. All right, and this is a few animations, if you wouldn't mind clicking through. So this is our department, and we balance the kind of traditional areas of civil and environmental engineering, and you'll see that and when I show the programs and concentrations that we offer at the master's and PhD level. But we are well aware of both the importance of traditional civil and environmental engineering education, as well as the importance of innovating and embracing interdisciplinarity in both research and teaching. So you can see in the dark text at the kind of 120-degree locations around this circle, we have the traditional disciplines, which are reflected in our graduate program. And then we have many cross-cutting thrusts that borrow from those foundational elements of civil and environmental engineering to solve very complex problems. And you can see that we are focused on those university level initiatives of health, sustainability, and security, both in terms of our research and our teaching. Next slide, please. All right, so really quickly, I just want to give you a lay of the land of what our department offers at the graduate level. So we offer degrees at the graduate level of a Master's of Science in Civil Engineering, and there are 6 possible concentrations for that degree. Those are listed at the bottom. I already mentioned a degree we launched last year, which is joint with the College of Science, which is the Master's of Science, Climate Science and Engineering degree. We also offer another joint degree with the School of Public Policy and Urban Affairs, and that's an MS in Engineering and Public Policy. We offer an MS in Environmental Engineering, an MS that is joint with our School of Architecture called an MS in Sustainable Building Systems. We have a degree we're launching for the first time this fall 25. So if any of you are part of that degree, you are part of the inaugural cohort of that degree. This is a really interesting dual degree with University College Dublin, involving studies here in Boston as well as studies in Dublin, and that's the MS Sustainability Engineering Leadership. And then at the PhD level, we offer PhDs in civil and environmental engineering and in interdisciplinary engineering. And if you have questions about what interdisciplinary engineering is, happy to answer those when we start the discussion. So within civil engineering, both at the PhD and at the MS level, we offer 6 concentrations. So construction management is the first, data and systems is the second. So that's one we created several years ago, recognizing the clear importance of data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence skills and tools in being applied to civil and environmental engineering questions and problems. Third concentration is geotechnical geoenvironmental engineering, then structural engineering, transportation engineering, and water and environmental coastal systems. Next slide, please. And yeah, like I mentioned, I'm not talking for all that long. We've got a great group here to answer your questions, and I'm eager to hear what's on your mind. So Emily, I'll pass it back to you to launch the Q&A.
Sounds good. We have a couple questions that have been answered already in the chat. And then Marissa, did you have the pre-submitted questions?
Yes, I can definitely start with those. I'm also going to stop sharing my screen just so all the students who are on the call today can actually see who they're asking their questions to. So yeah, I can definitely start with those, but like Dr. Myers and Emily have said, if you have any questions while we're going through the questions that have been pre-submitted, please feel free to put them in the chat. We can kind of go back and forth between the two. I just want to note before we start the questions, they were all anonymous. So if we do ask your question and you have a follow-up question, please feel free to just ask your follow-up questions in the chat, and we're happy to go with that. So I will ask one question and I'll direct it at Kirsten because I know a lot of questions have been coming in. But one of the questions I thought was kind of interesting was, do MS students have an advisor and when does that advisor get assigned? Would you kind of mind sharing a little bit about what your role is and kind of how you help support students as they go through their academic journey while they're at Northeastern?
Sure. That's actually a very common question we receive, especially from incoming students. Incoming students will be assigned what we call a primary advisor, but that is not done until roughly around what the university calls the add and drop period, which is the last day to add a class and the last day to drop a class. That way we know that the students are actively enrolled in classes and therefore a participating student. Um, but in the meantime, we do offer virtual office hours, which students can attend. And I'm going to go ahead and get the the website up for that. Um, and the next one is in July. And what this is, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the chat, is you have about 10 minutes one-on-one with an academic advisor to ask questions you might have, go over your degree audit, all of that. And that happens throughout the year as well. When you are assigned a primary advisor, you will have the option to schedule a much longer one-on-one 20-minute meeting through our system called Navigate based on it, your primary advisor's availability. So keep in mind, we're looking for incoming students probably sometime around early October. There is a chance it might be done earlier, but we can't promise. That is the general time. But between that, always too as well is we have email's always the best way to reach us at coe-gradadvising@northeastern.edu. That is a shared inbox, so all advisors have opportunity to review that, which is great. You'll get an answer in a very timely manner without waiting for somebody who might be away at the moment, etc. What I do as an advisor is I work very closely with your program contact, like for instance, with Professor Myers, to ensure that students are able to enroll in the courses they need to enroll in. We meet with students, provide them guidance on their degree audit, and help them go through process. If, for instance, if they want to have a class that's not part of their curriculum, but they receive approval from their academic department, we have an administrative process for that. If you are an international student, there are a few forms that we're part of the process for instance, extending your I-20 if you need additional time for that, as well as if you want to do post-OPT or even pre-OPT. We're kind of a part of that, just checking your uh, degree progress. And lastly, generally speaking, we are a connector. We don't know the answer. We at least help you connect to the department that does have that answer. And I hope that made a lot of sense. I know that was a lot, but we actually do a lot. So
Yeah, thanks, Kirsten. And if I could just add on top of that, so Kirsten oversees an advising team, like she described, and are vitally important to the success of our students. And then on top of that, the department for every single one of those programs and concentrations has a faculty member who is assigned as your kind of advisor, who can help more with, if you're juggling between which elective will better help set you up for your career aspirations. This is a faculty member who has specific expertise in that particular program or concentration. And so they will know kind of specific industry folks in that area, and they will also be able to help you, like I mentioned, if there's a couple of electives you're kind of considering, they can help you make a choice for which one will help you achieve your career aspirations.
Great, thank you both. So I do see a question that has come up in the Q&A. And also we've had some students who are MS who have submitted questions about research and the opportunities that they can have. So the question I see in the Q&A is, do students decide to pursue a research-based or more course-heavy MS degree with their advisor upon their first week or semester at Northeastern? So I guess I can throw that one to you, Andy.
Yeah, sure. Great question. So I think I'm pretty sure this is master's level. That makes the most sense. So at the master's level, there are three options. You can do a coursework only master's, which is 8 4-semester hour courses typically. You can do a master's thesis, where you then do 6 4-semester hour courses plus an 8-semester hour thesis. Or you can do a master's project, where you would do 7 4-semester hour classes plus 1 4-semester hour project. So coursework only, project, and thesis are the 3 options for the master's track. The project and the thesis both require that you have an advisor. And the question was asking about if this is sort of established in the first week. Typically, no. Typically, I would say it's the first semester when your advisor is established, because it's an important decision. You really want to get to know the faculty here and find a project or a thesis topic that is kind of mutually interesting to both you and the advisor. So folks who opt for their master's degree to include a project or a thesis usually are finding their advisor towards the end of the first semester, towards the start of the second semester, after they've had a chance to take some courses, get to know the faculty, and find an advisor who shares their interests. So we love students who opt for project or thesis based master's degrees, and coursework only is also a really popular option. So it all depends on what your interests are, if you want to include a thesis or project as part of your master's education.
And if you don't mind if I just add on to that too, just want to make sure if you decide to do a thesis, you do 4 credits under MS project in one term and 4 credits in another term. You cannot do all 8 credits of thesis in one term. So that goes back to what Professor Meyer was saying, to kind of establish that relationship with a potential faculty advisor earlier, so you have enough time in your program to complete a thesis.
Great, thanks. So I'll go back to our questions that have been pre-submitted. So I'll ask this question to our student ambassador, Melanie. We had a couple students who had some questions about kind of how to get adjusted in Boston. Can you talk a little bit about maybe like starting your program and how you transitioned into the city, and if you have any advice for any of the students who might be moving into Boston?
Yeah, I actually moved from Boston from the West Coast, so I definitely went through that adjustment period. But I would suggest number one, connecting with people in your program. Most other people are moving from somewhere else, from Boston, so people are eager to meet new people, make friends, and I think that's a great way to kind of getting a network, and get connected a little bit more. I know there's a lot of also extracurricular activities and different clubs that you can join depending on your interests that also help you meet people. And then I would recommend hopping on the T, and taking it somewhere right from Northeastern. Exploring the city, it's a great walkable city. You can get almost anywhere. And there's tons of things to do, outdoor, indoor. And there's a lot of things accessible to Northeastern students. Like you can go to the MFA, for free and things like that with your student ID. So definitely check out all those opportunities available for you, explore, and connect with other students. Yeah.
If folks don't recognize the acronym, MFA is Museum of Fine Arts. It's a
Yeah.
terrific museum right across the street from campus.
Mhm.
And then just on that line, because we've had this question came up in a couple other webinars for folks who are moving, who have not actually been to New England before. What would you say was kind of your biggest transition, whether that's like weather, something culturally about the way people act in New England, anything weird about New England that you would kind of not warn, but like talk to first timers about a little bit?
Hmm. Um, I think I think weather. Um, I think I was very excited to move to a walkable city, but then it comes to getting groceries in the rain or snow, and that's a little bit different. But don't get me wrong, I do love the weather here. But I think just get some good pairs of shoes, and get some gear for the weather, and you'll have a great time. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And I'll just say for me, I'm from Pittsburgh, which is a little bit south of New England for me. I'll definitely say like with Melanie, it was the walkable city for me. because I'm used to being in a place where you absolutely have to have a vehicle, or else it's going to take you a really long time to get places. Like we had public transportation in Pittsburgh, but it was not great. So I'll definitely say, yeah, that was the biggest culture shock for me, was definitely how easy it is to get around someplace. But I think everybody else is New England based, so they may not have had many culture shocks. I know Emily's from Connecticut, so she's definitely not going to be in that as well. Yeah, and then I do see a question in the Q&A, not to keep hampering you with questions here, Melanie, but can you talk a little bit maybe about some of the extracurriculars you might be involved in, or maybe some of your friends that are involved in? I know as a PhD student, you don't have all the time in the world, but if there's anything you're involved in or how you've got involved, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about that.
I know there's, like you said, I'm not involved in a lot of clubs as I'm a PhD student, um, but I know there's different kind of service, community service related things if you're interested in stuff like that. There's also very like department specific clubs. I sometimes go to the graduate or civil and environmental engineering run club, which is fun. It's a great time. And I know there's a lot of different clubs where you can listen to different types of seminars and lectures and things like that. But I know upon orientation, you get all the resources for all the different clubs that you can join, depending on your interests. So yeah.
Great.
If I can add just a couple of remarks there. So most of our programs and concentrations also have a student organization, a graduate student organization that kind of coordinates activities within that program or concentration. So for example, in the structural engineering concentration, we have the Northeastern Graduate Structural Engineers Association. And so they organize social activities, they organize bringing in speakers to campus and things like that. And, on topics that are interesting to folks who are studying structural engineering, and our other concentrations and programs have similar activities. We also have a graduate student council, which has both master's and PhD representation on it. And this is a hugely important link for me, since I oversee the graduate program, to get a pulse of the students. And so they act as a liaison between the faculty and administration and the students. And so that's another organization that if you're interested in being a student leader, I encourage you to check out. And then the last note I'll make is that we also have a belonging committee that plans some social activities. And one that's coming to my mind at the moment is they organize a pumpkin carving contest in the fall, which for some international students, it's kind of their first time carving a pumpkin, and it's a delightful experience if you haven't done it before. And so they organize activities like that throughout the year.
Great, thank you. So we have this one question, it's kind of a loaded question from one of our MS in civil engineering incoming students. They had a question, and I'll ask this to you, I guess, Dr. Myers. What would you say are the core and elective courses that are most aligned with current industry trends? And they didn't specify which concentration they were in, so I know this is a very wide open question.
Yeah, if that person is on the line and would be up for elaborating a bit, it would help me give you a more specific answer. Because it's kind of a program and concentration specific answer, but I'll just give some high level remarks while perhaps this person can elaborate either in the chat. We, I think, distinctively are very closely tied to industry in general. Many of our faculty are doing research projects that are tightly tied with industry. We have a vibrant industrial advisory board that our department meets with twice a year. We just had the meeting about a month or so ago, as well as a banquet after that, which is a really important two-way exchange of information where we tell them what we're hearing from our students and how our curriculum design is currently going, and then we hear feedback from them on sort of areas where they think industry is heading and where they want us to adapt our curriculum accordingly. So we're constantly questioning how our curriculum is organized, what courses we're offering, and whether we are delivering what will be rewarded by industry. In addition to that, like I already mentioned, the co-op system is in the bones of our department and the university. Co-op is also available at the graduate level, although it's been in existence for over 100 years at the undergraduate level. It's a lot more recent than we've been offering at the graduate level. And so that's also a great way to sort of build up your industry experience as part of your education here. But yeah, I really can't answer the specific course questions unless I know the concentration or program in particular.
Great. Thank you. And I'll say if that person is on the line and you don't want to speak up, if you want to chat me privately, that is totally fine too. But I don't know if that person is on today, but thank you for asking that question. So for the next question that was submitted online, I guess I can throw this out to Emily because it's kind of a PhD admissions question. What is the process for an MS student who wants to pursue a PhD, but who is only admitted to the master's at this time? Can you kind of explain the PhD admissions process, I guess, to anybody who's currently, starting their master's program, but might be thinking PhD currently down the line?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of options. I know that we do have what's called MS along the way. That's usually for those who are kind of vice versa, so, admitted into the PhD program who want to receive an MS along the way. But for those who are currently admitted to an MS program and maybe thinking of a PhD down the line, I recommend, continuing on with your coursework throughout there. If you're doing research, you might be working with faculty who you'd be later on interested in pursuing a PhD with. And I think, building those relationships as you're taking your MS courses is a great way to, see what works, see what doesn't, see what your niche is and what you're really interested in pursuing PhD wise. And at that point in time, when you'd be ready to begin the application process, you would apply into the PhD just like you applied to your MS program. We still do need a record of that application. And, being a current student within the department, you would obviously know whether certain faculty would be taking on PhD students. So I almost think it would be a little bit more of an informed process, but with kind of communicating with your advisors and your faculty within the department, you would know when it would be time to go ahead and start that application process. And Andy, if there's anything you want to add on that I might not know on the inside scoop of MS to PhD, feel free to add in.
I think you nailed it. I'll just emphasize one point is it is a kind of good way. I mean, if you're kind of unsure, since you didn't apply for the PhD, it sort of suggests you're unsure about whether you want to do a PhD. And so, starting off with your master's, and if you're if you're thinking about a PhD, I would encourage you to do a thesis as part of your master's, so you get a taste of research as part of your master's. But in any case, starting off with your master's and then transitioning to a PhD is a really great way to make a more informed decision than maybe you're comfortable with making now. And the key step in applying to our PhD program is finding an advisor who will support you with an assistantship as part of your PhD studies. And in case folks don't know, all of our PhD students in the department receive a stipend and a tuition waiver. So that is the key part, is to find a project and advisor who will offer you an assistantship for your PhD studies.
Great. So that was the end of all the questions that had been pre-submitted. I'm not seeing any additional questions in the Q&A. Thank you, Kirsten, for answering all the course registration troubleshooting questions, as always. Very appreciated of that. So I guess if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in. So there is one question. Do I need to have an advisor during the master's program? I'm assuming for your thesis. And how does the process of choosing an advisor work? Is it assigned by the program, or do students select one based on their research interests?
So there's kind of a few levels of advising. So Kirsten described what her team does in terms of advising. I then mentioned you have a kind of faculty advisor by default, depending on which program or concentration you're enrolling in. And if you don't know who that person is, I mean, feel free to reach out to me or anyone here, and we can connect you with that person. Then the third level is if you're choosing a project or a thesis, you then have an advisor for that project or thesis. And the process there is kind of, I would say, student driven usually. So usually it's the student who indicates the interest in a thesis or a project to the faculty. And as Kirsten mentioned, for the thesis in particular, it's great to be out in front of it. So great if you can do this during the first semester. Where you get to know the faculty, you have them in your classes. We have a seminar series. We have all sorts of social activities where you'll get to know them, and you can try to find someone who shares an interest, and then you mutually decide to work together for a thesis or a project. So it is usually student-led. Sometimes it's faculty-led. Sometimes faculty have a master's thesis topic where they need a master's student to work with them on that topic, and so they'll go out advertising and looking for students, and then you can try to see if it's something that interests you and respond to that opportunity.
Great, thanks. So we also have a question, and the student is logging on today all the way from Senegal in West Africa. So thank you for joining us. For students in civil engineering who are interested in launching tech startups in infrastructure or smart cities, are there specific incubators or mentorship programs that they can participate in?
Yes. So Northeastern has something called CRI, which is the oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name. Anyone remember what that stands for? Commercialization Readiness Initiative. That doesn't quite sound right, but in any case, there's an office called CRI, where their mission is to take student faculty research and for research topics that have commercialization potential, guide them in launching a startup around that idea, and also guide the student in applying for and protecting whatever intellectual property might be associated with the idea. So yeah, there's a whole university level office dedicated to that. That's kind of a formal structure. There are also groups, entrepreneurial groups throughout campus. The National Science Foundation has a program called I-Core that Northeastern has a location where you can take one of their trainings to get sort of the basics of having a startup. And then many of the faculty in our department, including myself, have experience with launching companies. And so, if that's an interest of yours, I would indicate it clearly when you arrive here, and let the faculty know you're interested. And we have several faculty who have experience who can help guide you both kind of within Northeastern for opportunities and programs that we have within the university, as well as opportunities outside the university, whether it be sponsorship, a grant, looking for appropriate grants or investments or investors, incubators, things like that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I see a question from a student who is intending to do his master's with a thesis in environmental engineering. So he is saying that his goal is to obtain an RA or a TA. I know those are typically awarded to our PhD students, but is there any opportunity for students to work as RA or TAs in the department as an MS student?
The way masters, the sort of most common way that master's students can receive funding of some sort to offset costs and expenses of living and tuition and all that, there's kind of two, I would say. So we offer greater hourly compensated grader positions to master's students. So it's not a full teaching assistantship because it's based on the hours worked, but you would assist with grading in courses that are relevant to your experience and expertise, and receive compensation on an hourly basis. So that's kind of one mechanism we have for providing funding to master's students. And then the second one is the co-op program. So we have a master's level co-op. It could be 4, 6, or 8 months. Requires some coordination with your courses. So you need to, if that's something you're interested in, you should start to integrate it into your planning early. But co-ops are also compensated at, market competitive rates for master's level students. So you also could take a 4, 6, or 8 month co-op and receive compensation as part of that to offset costs.
Great, thank you. And Kirsten, I saw you answered the question about taking more than the 32 credits. Could you?
I was about to, but then I was like, oh, we're probably going to talk about it, so I
was
stopped.
just gonna ask you if you could expand on it. So whatever you were gonna take in.
Yeah, so it is really dependent on each student's unique situation. Because if you're an international student, that might cause issues with you taking more than your required course, like the 32 credits, because your I-20 has a specific end date, et cetera, and you're supposed to maintain progress throughout that. So you can always email us at coe-gradadvising@northeastern.edu, and we can look over, student-specific cases. But generally speaking, students should take the courses that complete their program and go from there.
Awesome, thank you. And I know this hasn't come up in this webinar, but I think you've answered this multiple times in other webinars, but can you just explain, I know some students in other webinars were asking about, can you take more than the 2 courses per term? Can you explain kind of what a full-time course load is and like what the expectations are and that kind of thing?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. That's a very common question, as you mentioned. Each program has a different max credit hours, generally speaking, anywhere between 9 to 13 credit hours a term. To be considered full-time, though, especially if you're an international student, that is 8 credit hours. So as long as you take 8 credit hours, that's good. Vast majority of the courses you'll be taking in this program are 4 credits, so that would transfer over to 2 courses a term. Summer is considered optional, so you do not have to take courses in the summer if you do not wish to, as long as you're not planning on completing your program that term. If you wish to take more than your max hour credits, let's say taking over whatever the limit is, if you have 12 credits and you want to take 13, or if you want to take 16, which is not highly recommended, but it does come up. You will need to talk to your program contact and submit what we call a standard petition to request to have those hours increased for that term. But it is a possibility, but it is up to your program contact to determine whether or not that's possible.
And I'll just emphasize one point is that it's unusual but possible, like Kirsten mentioned, to take 16 semester hours, and so it's possible to complete your degree in 2 semesters, and we do that intentionally because there are some students who really want to complete their degree in 2 semesters. But like Kirsten mentioned, it's a heavy course load, so you'd want to go into that, talk with Kirsten, talk with your faculty advisor, and just make sure you go into that eyes wide open.
Awesome, thank you both. So I see a question in the chat. And first of all, I just want to preface your question. It's not silly or off topic at all. Any questions can go, but the student is asking about what the parking situation is on campus. So I put a link in the chat, which is kind of where our mass park is. So you can get a parking pass for campus. I'll be honest with you, I never drive to campus. I only take the T, so I'm probably not the best person to talk about parking. But when I did used to park on campus, there are 3 garages on campus that you can park your car, and they are a little bit expensive. So you just want to look at your options. And then I think if you're just a part-time student, you're only taking classes at night, I'm not really sure what your situation is. I think you might be able to get a discounted pass. And I know for sure while you're on co-op, you can also get a discounted pass. But honestly, I don't know where you're planning on living in the Boston area, but if you are living in one of the surrounding areas where our campus is, because we're kind of sitting like in the middle of like the Fenway neighborhood, Back Bay, South End, Mission Hill, I would honestly recommend just getting a resident parking pass and parking on the street. That's going to save you like a lot of money, if that's something that you're able to do. But like I said, I'm not really sure what neighborhood you're living in. I would also say too, Boston's very bike friendly. If you're in a position where you can ride your bike to class, you might honestly have better luck with that. Because there's plenty of places to park your bike on campus. But I don't know if anybody else, Melanie, I don't know if you have a car on campus, if you want to share kind of what your situation is, or if you're a more T person. But yeah, if anybody else has anything they want to add about parking, go for it.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add, but I would second the resident parking pass. When I was looking at bringing my car up, I think that looked like the best option for me.
Yep, that's a good call, Marissa. If you're sort of stuck with a car commute, but I'll also note I commute by bike, and there's the you can look up the Southwest Corridor bike path. It goes right through the heart of campus, so it goes 4 miles to the south to a T station called Forest Hills, and then it goes all the way to a T station called Back Bay. We're also right on the Emerald Necklace, which is a good biking, so it's a good place to bike to if you're inclined to be a bicycle commuter. And then on top of that, you know, there's bike racks right outside of our building, so you know go right to the front door.
Awesome. Thank you guys for answering that. So I do see a question. Can one transition from MS to PhD while going through the course-based path and not the thesis? I believe so, right? Yeah, it's not required to do a thesis in the MS when you're thinking about applying for your PhD. And I would say it's not required, right? Okay.
Definitely not required. Yeah, if that question was related to my comment about, you know, if you're thinking about a PhD, you know, I mentioned that doing a thesis is a decent idea to get a taste of what research is like before committing to the PhD. But that was just a recommendation, not at all a requirement. And we have lots of examples of folks who have done coursework only masters and then transitioned into the PhD.
Great. So I see a question from a student who is in the MS in Sustainable Building Systems, but who's also been admitted to urban planning and policy. So just to answer your question, no, unfortunately, it's not possible to pursue 2 degrees at the same time. You would have to only enroll in one at a time. I believe, right, Kirsten, you're not able to do 2 at a time.
Yeah,
Correct?
as far as I'm aware too, I will say that we do have students that start off in one program and decide either another program is more their style or a different concentration is more their style. And there is a chance to switch into that. You can always contact us at COE-grad advising. We can help you with that process because it does differ between an actual program and changing an actual concentration. But as far as we're aware of, yeah, you can't do 2 programs at the same time. So yeah, and to answer kind of the other part of that question about getting in touch with registration, I'm going to put in the chat too. There is a course registration guidance that is available that's provided from specifically your program to help guide you on the courses that you should take your first term. So you can definitely enroll in those courses. If you do have any questions, you can always contact us if you run into issues. As I mentioned about meeting with us, you can either attend our virtual office hours or email us, and we can maybe set up a situation as the your primary advisors are not assigned until probably early October at this point.
Great. Thank you so much, Kirsten. I also see as part of your question, you also had a question about student employment. So I'm just actually going to put the student employment office link into the chat as well. For students who are currently enrolled, you are more than welcome to go and look through some of the on-campus opportunities on that site as well. So
piggyback off of that really quickly because we had a similar question about it earlier. incoming students do not have access to the student employment site until most likely roughly between 2 to 4 weeks before the start of the program, but you can contact the student employment team and they'll be able to assist you if you run into any issues. But don't worry if you're not able to gain access to it at this time.
It's a great point. Thank you so much, Kirsten. And there is a question in the chat. And I'll admit, I do not actually know the answer to this question, so I can definitely do some digging if folks on the call are not able to answer this question as well. Do we know if there is any specific support for international students, such as English courses, workshops, integration? There is.
Yes, there is. And I just put the link in the chat. OGS has a lot of different support systems for the students. And in fact, I'm gonna even sent like a generic one, but this one really goes into super detail for OGS about the support. And that does include help with like English language and all of that too, as well as providing, a sense of community and all of that. So definitely take a look and connect with OGS. We are with the newest Open Doors report, which is the largest report on international education. Northeastern's ranked as #2. So we're very well versed with international student population. This is not new to us. So we do have a lot of opportunities for international students.
Awesome. Thanks, Kirsten. So we have about 5 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, any lingering questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A. Otherwise, I'll throw it back to my panelists if anybody has any last closing remarks they want to add before we log off the call today.
I am putting my email in the chat. Like I mentioned, depending on which program or concentration you've been admitted to and are potentially enrolling in, there is a faculty advisor already assigned to that program and concentration. So if you don't know who that is and you would like to be connected with that person to get some questions answered, you can reach out to me and I can make that connection. I'm also more than happy to field any questions you might have. And again, thank you so much for your interest in our program. We've got a great culture here, an innovative curriculum that we're always improving. And so I really appreciate your interest and hope you decide to enroll here, and I'll see you in September.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andy. And thank you too to the rest of our panelists today, Kirsten, Melanie, Emily. Thank you so much for joining today. And I don't see any additional questions. So we can go ahead and close the webinar. To our admitted students, congratulations on your acceptance. We're really excited to see you on the fall. And no matter where you are in the world today, have a great rest of your evening, afternoon, and morning. We hope you have a great rest of the day. Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Take care.
everyone.
Bye.